Thank you for having me. Hello to everyone. Very interesting subject, and I think you touched on a lot of great points. And for those of you who don't know me, I spent almost equal thirds of my life living in Europe, North America, and Asia. So I've come through this from several different angles, and I think there's a very, very big elephant in this room about cultural appropriation, or whatever terminology you want to use, and that is that I think there's one way that people in the United States are driving this issue, and another way that people in sort of the rest of the world are driving this issue. Because you're absolutely right. When a Japanese considers that sincere imitation the sincerest form of flattery, or when you're in Jakarta as a non-Indonesian business person, when you show up wearing a batik shirt, to a function rather than your normal suit and tie, that's a very positive event. And I've seen very similar things in Singapore and in Russia and in other places. Now, in the United States, as you said, everything is a hot button issue. And this is no different, because there has certainly been a lot of cultural misappropriation over the years, right? You see it in the entertainment industry. If somebody applies for a university scholarship claiming that they're one race and not another, if somebody uses that to their benefit to the detriment of other candidates who would have been able to get a role, all of this is cultural misappropriation, and in many cases breaking the law, and the people should have the fullest extent of the law brought down on them and socially and obviously dragged through the coals on social media. But that's just not how most of the world sees it, because in the United States, as a non-American, or even members of my family who are not Americans but speak with a perfect Midwest accent, when we go to the United States, I think our opinion is that people are judged mainly by their accent and by the amount of melanin in their skin. That's what an American thinks that culture it breaks down to. When in reality, however you want to define it, it's defined as the ideas, customs, and social behaviors of a given group, whether that group is racial or social or even just attitudinal. All right, so people in the United States view this much differently than people in the rest of the world. So for an issue like with Gwen Stefani, where absolutely ridiculous, because she originally started to take grief because of her use of Harajuku dancers, Harajuku girls. And, the Harajuku culture was specifically to bring non-Japanese, social norms and clothing and mix those with Japanese ones. So the, Lolita goth Harajuku girls copy Victorian clothing, or the Lolita punk copy the punk clothing of the East Coast United States and UK in the 70s. All right, so to come down on her for that is really silly. And there are cases of bad cultural misappropriation out there being done, which people need to knock off, whether it's just in bad taste or actually breaking the law. But finding something you love about another culture and not portraying yourself as a member of that other culture for your own personal gain, there's nothing wrong with that kind of closeness to a culture. And she said, kind of airheadedly, she said, "Well, I'm Japanese and I didn't even know it." And people took on that one little quote and lambasted her, when a lot of them didn't even realize her connection to Japan because of her father's travels, etc. So I think the way the rest of the world views this issue is much different than it's viewed within the American borders.
In other words, Frank, I am an outlier in my own culture.
Yeah, sure. We are, however you want to define us, we're third culture individuals, right? We're whether it's an expat or stay pat or repat or however you want to call it, people have different views on this issue, probably directly proportional to how many cultures and how many nations they've lived in, right? And you can see it done in bad taste and in situations that are absolutely wrong, right? But most of the time, it's done out of a position of respect or admiration for that culture, right? And even in Japanese, there's different words for people who are Japanophiles and people who go over the top in terms of their imitation of Japanese culture. Distinctly different words. One's pejorative, one's not. So, like any other thing, any other concept, you can go too far and you can cross the line and do things which are absolutely wrong. But in these cases, it's generally, especially within North America, it's not about whether you like Harajuku culture. It's not about the size. A month before that, there was all these articles about the size of earrings, which it is acceptable for women of different cultures to wear, which is, again, borders on the ridiculous. And, as you say, how far back do we go? So you cannot conflate concepts like culture and skin color and nationality and religion. Americans love to lump all the issues together, but they're not all the same.
Yeah, thank you very much for that input. That's great. Wow. I appreciate those points of view.